Hi, I'm Rochelle Fox, and this is the 100% Inspirational Podcast.
100% bass!
Yeah, and we're bouncing here on the beat of the jingle with 100% Rochelle. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you're an Aussie. Do I say it like that? You're
Yes.
from Australia, you're an Aussie?
I am Australian.
You're Australian.
Australian. Oi, oi, oi. Aussie in the building.
Okay, awesome. And you are the author of the book Magnetic, which is translated to Dutch, which is perfect. We have it here in the studio, so watch this interview on YouTube if you don't see it. You are the creator of your own app. It's on my notes. It says manifeste, but it's manifesti, right?
Manifesti. Yeah.
Manifesti, yeah. And you have your own online meditation and personal growth school. It's called Mindspell, your own podcast. So yeah, I'm really excited that you are here. And actually, I was reading your book, and my first question is about the first page, or actually before the book even starts. And it says, to your inner child. Can you elaborate on that?
When I was writing this book, I felt like I was really speaking to a younger version of myself. My book is really about helping people unlock the power within and to get back into what it is that they want to create in their life and draw in the experiences and the things that they are, dreaming of. And when I thought about that version of me that really started dreaming, it was my inner child. It was like little Rochelle, 5-year-old Rochelle with big dreams and big passions. And I think I wanted the reader to remember their inner child, to remember that part of themselves that used to dream freely and used to dream without the lid on. Because I think as adults, we have a little bit of a lid on our dream. But when you were little, what did you dream of doing when you were little? Like, what would you used to imagine doing?
What a nice question. I think nothing specific, but I always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I was always very passionate about life. I was like, even if I would go to jail for some reason, I would have fun in jail. I was like, I want to enjoy life. Yeah.
So I used to want to be like a mermaid and an astronaut and all those,
like those things.
Crazy things, and a newsreader, which I've kind of ended up doing.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I wanted to connect the reader back with that little version of themselves.
Yeah.
And hopefully when you read the book, you can kind of be with that past version of yourself. Because I'm a big believer that like our inner children, they exist within us. Like, I don't know about you, but I just feel like a kid in an adult's body. It's a little bit of a sham growing up.
Yeah. I always think that there are two ways to feel like an inner child. Sometimes you feel like the trauma of your inner child takes over. Then it's like not fun to be an inner child as an adult.
Yeah.
But the healthy version, the impulsive, adventurous, free version of an inner child. Yeah, I really value that, to keep that in me as an adult.
I'm so happy you noticed that at the beginning of the book.
Yeah, it really got me. And do you live the life now that the 5-year-old Rochelle dreamed of?
Yeah, I do actually. I feel like I live a life that little me would look at and go, whoa, we did that.
High five.
Literally. I've very much been on a journey to like live for the little version of me and to do the things that I've always wanted to do. I just got back from like the UK, like launching this book, and I was speaking on a stage there. And that for me when I was little as well, I used to love speech Stedfords and speaking. And I definitely felt like when I was up on that stage, there was like a little me like standing up on that stage as well, and was just so excited to be there. So yeah, I do feel that.
And of course, we're going to talk about the book Magnetic. We're going to talk about your vision on how to manifest stuff in your life, or just how to manifest. We're going to talk about your vision on meditation. But if we look at your story, you didn't start your career like as a teacher or a spiritual seeker or as an inspirator. So can you tell us something about your story? How did it start, and where did you... well, on your website, you say that you turned pain into purpose. So can you tell us a little bit about your story from pain to purpose?
Of course, yeah. I feel I am not the sort of person you would look at and you would think, oh, she's super calm because she's talking about spirituality and meditation and all of those things. But I actually deep down was a very anxious person. I had a lot of mental health struggles, depression, anxiety. I got diagnosed with something called PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder. And I had what I would call like a mental health mixed bag. That's what I would call it. It was just all of these things that were happening that kind of came to surface in my early 20s. And at the time, I was kind of wearing a mask in my life. I was working in the entertainment industry. So I was DJing and doing presenting and doing radio stuff. So kind of similar realm to what I'm doing now in the sense I've always been an entertainer in some aspects. But I was, the radio show I was working for was called The Dirt, and it was all about celebrity.
The Dirt.
Oh,
yeah.
It was all about celebrity gossip. So I was
very spiritual and
super spiritual.
Yeah.
And I was in this kind of world of entertainment, and I loved that world. But at the same time, I was kind of hiding this dirty secret, I would say, of that everything on the inside was crashing down. It was quite fake. I was out looking really confident and happy and going to all these parties and doing all these things. But then I would go home and I would binge eat. I had some eating disorder issues, and I was kind of in this darkness that I wouldn't let anyone see. And that darkness started to really kind of take over and get really intense. And then I eventually got diagnosed with PTSD from a cognitive behavioral therapist. And that diagnosis for me kind of changed my life, because I think so often we walk through life with things going on and we don't have a name for it. And I like to think that sometimes when we have a name for something, we can kind of kill it. You know, we can actually start to deal with that thing. And when I got that diagnosis of having PTSD, everything made so much sense. I was like, oh, the eating disorder, the anxiety, the depression, the night terrors, all of these mental health struggles I was having, it was all stemming from these traumatic things that happened to me in my childhood. And I kind of went on this journey of trying to figure out how to fix myself. And I tried a lot of conventional things and some not so conventional things. And at the time, I had a close friend of ours that basically heard that I had PTSD. And he came to me and he said, you know, I think you should maybe go and try this thing called meditation. And he originally suggested it to my partner. And when my partner came back and he's like, you should try meditation. They're getting great results with people that have PTSD learning how to meditate. And I'm like, who are these people? He's like, well, there's people coming back from Iraq with PTSD, soldiers, and they're learning meditation and it's helping them with this thing. I was like, meditation? Oh, what on earth are you talking about? Like woo-woo hippie shit. Like, this is crazy. I'm not going to go sit on a mountaintop and like silence my mind and that's going to fix all the issues that I'm trying to fix with medication and all that. But I tried many things, but I gave the meditation a shot. I went and learned at a studio in Sydney. I spent the last $1,000 in my bank account to go and learn. And I started practicing. And that practice of meditation, like literally changed, transformed. And I desperately always say, like, it saved my life. Like, it was, for me, night and day. It was a process of 3 months of going back and doing this practice, but just the gradual showing up for this practice and starting to realize that I'm not the voice inside my head just because I have negative thoughts, just because I have these things and these patterns. It doesn't mean that that's me. And I could start to differentiate between like someone listening to the voice and then the voice. And there was all of a sudden distance.
Yeah, I feel relaxation in my body when you talk about that. Like there's distance between the voice and the one who, how did you say it? Here's like the voice?
Here's the voice. So it's like there is a voice and it's like, well, if you can listen to the voice, then who is listening? If you can observe the voice, then it's not you. That for me was this huge penny drop moment. And that happened to me during a mantra meditation session that I talk about in the book. It was this moment where I, for the first time, got distance between that voice inside my head. And that was life-changing for me. And from learning meditation, I went down, what would we call it? Like the spiritual rabbit hole. What's the Dutch word for rabbit hole?
Like konijnengat?
Yeah.
Chris, help me out here.
Yeah. I went down.
No, that's, I think, konijnenhol then. But continue.
I went down the Kanina hole and I was deep in the Kanina hole. And I was, then it was manifestation, spirituality, chakras, yoga. It was this new world for me because I was not a spiritual person to start off with. Like I had gone to like a Christian school and stuff, but I would have considered myself an atheist. I didn't believe in energy. I
you didn't believe in energy. That's funny.
That sounds ridiculous, right?
Did you believe in gravity?
What we're all made of. But for me, I'm like,
of course.
I was in this mindset of I wanted to see something to believe it.
Yeah.
And now I believe more things that I don't see.
I'm making fun of it because there are a lot of people who don't believe in energy or don't believe in anything they can't see or touch. And then it's like, but do you believe in love? Can you see or touch love? Oh yeah, maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad used to say when pigs fly, and I'll be like, well, they fly in my dreams.
Yeah. And don't challenge me. I can make a pig fly. But not for very long, but it'll fly. Thank you for sharing this story. I have a lot of questions about it. But first, because you mentioned a mantra meditation, I saw that you interviewed, if I pronounce it right, Radhika Das.
Radhika Das, yeah.
Radhika Das.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Awesome that you met him and interviewed him. What were some of the biggest lessons or insights he taught you during that interview?
Oh, he said this one thing that I'm still thinking about. And I love that you bring it up because I was thinking about it on the way in the Uber here. And he said that for every 1 hour that you spend in front of a microphone, you need to spend 2 hours away from it in some kind of spiritual practice. And that for me, like when I say that, I get chills because I think that we're so quick to show up these days and talk and teach and do things. And it really made me remind myself to spend more time by myself in my own practice, discovering myself. We were just talking about, you're someone that's massive in personal growth. Obviously, you've got coaches and you're working on yourself and you're obviously on that path. And that's a beautiful thing. And you come here and you present and you talk. But I think a lot of people do the presenting stuff, but they're not doing the inner work.
Yeah.
And I really want to continue to be someone that is so committed to my inner work, because the inner work is really the outer work at the end of the day, because it's our inner world that's creating our outer world. But that was a huge thing that he said. He also just has such a beautiful perspective on joy. I think a lot of people talk about, we're here to suffer. Life is, full of suffering. And he just has we're here to sing and dance and be joyful and to connect with other people. He has such a beautiful foundation of bringing people together in community and through spiritual practice. And I think that we live in a world that can feel very lonely, really lonely for many people. And I think even when we can start like a spiritual path or personal development, it can feel lonely. And I think the more that we can reach out and be with other people, be it through communities like this podcast, meet other people that are listening to this podcast or other people that are going to events, I think that's really important. And he's great. He's a really beautiful human being.
Yeah. Just talking about him.
Yeah, I was like this on the interview. I ended up, I watched the video back and you could just watch me slowly sinking into the couch. By the end of it, I was just like resting in the couch, looking like I'm taking a nap, just like watching him, which was lovely.
You were like totally enlightened at the end of the interview.
I was mush. It was great.
And while talking about doing the work in your life now, what is doing the work for you?
Great question. I love that. Doing the work for me is just showing up every single day and doing what needs to be done for how I'm feeling and what's coming up for me. Some days that'll look like a really long meditation. Other times it's a quick breathwork session. Other times it's a hug, just being around people, spending time with my girlfriends. I'm not strict in the sense of like my spiritual practice looks like this. I'm very free flowing and I kind of go with what I need. I'm a consistent meditator. I show up for meditation a lot. That's really important for me. I always say meditation is my medication. It's how I refill my cup. I think.
And do you mean, is it like a daily habit?
Yeah, definitely.
Like in the morning or the evening, or people mostly like it when you're very specific.
I'll get very specific with you.
We want your formula.
Okay. When I wake up in the morning, I like to look at meditation as, I'll give you a question actually. Did you brush your teeth this morning?
It almost makes me insecure when you ask that. Yeah, I did.
You did? Yeah. Okay. Do you brush your teeth every morning?
Yeah.
Yeah. How important are your teeth to you on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, actually, a 10.
A 10, yeah. Okay. So for me, my brain is just as important, if not more important than my teeth.
Yeah.
So just as you brush your teeth every single day because your teeth are a 10 in importance, I brush my mind every single day with meditation right after I brush my teeth. So I think that we have dental hygiene, but then we have and need to have mental hygiene. Because for me, I notice a big difference between if I wake up in the morning and I don't meditate versus when I wake up in the morning and I do meditate. I'm just a kinder, calmer, cooler, more centered version of me. I can kind of handle more bullshit.
Kind of,
And I think that's a powerful thing. So for me, I wake up and I meditate, and that's a big thing. Lately, I've been using a lot of EFT. Have you heard of EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique?
No.
It's tapping. So
Oh yeah, I know tapping.
when you tap on specific meridian points, that for me has been really big. That's been helping me on a deeper level, I would say. Meditation, I feel, is an incredible tool that can get you very, very far. But sometimes there are things that come up that are from our childhood, as we spoke about. There's the joyous inner child, but then there's the inner child that went through some shit.
Yeah, the hurt inner child.
And for me, that is a really powerful tool to sit with and tap through some of the limiting beliefs or anxieties that come up, and that's been really helping me in my own practice. And I'm a little bit of a like, maybe people would call it weird, but if I had something, for example, this has been lovely, you're a great person, I'm not triggered at all, so this won't be happening here, but if I had some incident, I was out somewhere and I met someone for the first time and I didn't feel very secure or happy, I would be like, ooh, I'm going to go tap on that. And then I'll just like go excuse
Not
myself.
tap on that person, but tap on
tap on myself. And that's been really a beautiful tool for me to lean on. And that's a quick tool that you can use. You can just go and tap through things. And once you learn how to tap yourself, or you follow some videos online, it can be really powerful. Other things that I love doing, I love breath work. Whenever I feel, when you feel like you've had too much coffee?
Oh, yeah. I've had it a few hours ago. I was like, you shouldn't have had that third one. Yeah.
I think sometimes I talk in the book about the nervous system and how sometimes we don't need another shot of coffee. We need a shot of nervous system regulation. Yeah. And I think it's so important to do tools that regulate your nervous system and allow you to actually let go of some of this like built up stress that we can have. So I love doing breath work. That's a really... One of my favorite breath works is called this woman called Shivarasa, and it's just on Spotify. She has this free breath work you can do. Shivarasa. Yeah, I'll send it to you. You can put it in the show notes. It's amazing. That's my favorite breath work to do. And she's a DJ and like a sound producer. So we're listening to this breath work, and it's like there's whales and there's all it's like a beautiful soundscape, and you're doing breath work at home under your like doona, and it's amazing.
Well, I'm really an audio nerd, so I like that one.
Oh, if you're an audio nerd, you're going to listen to this. And the first time I listened to it, I was doing the breath work, but my brain was just constantly being like, oh, now we have whales. Oh, and then the chimes. Like, I was getting so distracted with the sound.
Oh my God, is that a monkey?
It was amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you for bringing this up. And I really like the fact that you do your work and share about that, because unfortunately there are some people trying to inspire others, and with all due respect, who don't do the inner work themselves. And I'm really thankful that you bring up all the different techniques or all the different things you do. So meditation in the morning, right after you brush your teeth, is like your daily or your regularly practice.
Yeah, and it's like habit stacking, because it's like a reminder. You brush your teeth, then you meditate. It just becomes like an automatic thing.
And I assume you leave your phone on flight mode.
Yes.
Yeah, and you open your phone after the meditation.
Yeah, that's a huge one, I would say, because the thing is, like our subconscious mind, which I talk a lot about in the book, it's very, very like susceptible first thing in the morning. So anything you do in the morning, you can just really imprint into your consciousness in like a really impactful but also scary way, because sometimes people wake up first thing in the morning and they'll flick on the news, and it's like your brain is in this beautiful slow kind of space, and then you're just sending it right up into all those beta brainwaves, and you're starting to go through the roof. And I think that our phones are beautiful tools, but just like a hammer, you can use it to build a house, or you can use it to hit yourself in the head. Yeah.
And last night, I left my phone because normally I have my phone on flight mode. Because when you see like the scans of what it does with the activity in your room, it's crazy. But last night I bought this sports watch like this weekend. So last night I kept my phone in the living room because my phone is my alarm. And it was such a big relief and insight how big the psychological difference is, because it's just psychological because it would be in flight mode anyway, but that there is no phone device in my sleeping room. I was like totally surprised.
If they say that just having the phone on a table when if we were having this conversation right now, if we were to have the phone, because it's so interesting when you think about it, our phones are connected to so many things. They're, I'll hang out with one of my girlfriends. I'm like, on that phone is the booty call from Tinder, the boss, her best friend, her mother, her school friends that she's organizing the reunion with. It's like this representation of so many people. So when we have it in our view, it's no wonder we can't be fully present with someone, because it's like there's this third person who's really actually 10, 15 people tied in, just like sitting there waiting for you.
Yeah, totally.
Notifications are going off and
Last week I visited a friend who I didn't see for a long time, and I kept my phone in the car, and it was such a relief again. Like, wow, this is now I really sound perfect. Maybe oftentimes I do it like wrong, but this was really awesome. So meditation, is your daily practice. Is EFT, is that like your go-to thing for when you have like anxiety or stress or like unhappy thoughts?
I would say EFT has been the go-to thing for unhappy thoughts and when I can see I'm limiting myself. So if I have something that comes up in my life that I can tell is impacting me, and I have a goal that I'm setting for myself or a desire that I want to fulfill. And I've got that voice inside my head that's saying, oh, you can't do this, you're not good enough, or you'll never be able to, or whatever that voice is. I'll capture that voice. I'll write down all of the, in air quotes here, negative thoughts, the thoughts that are coming up, the limitations, and then I'll tap through those things because it just really helps me lower that anxiety and that self-doubt. And a lot of the times it's been helping me like rewrite my limiting beliefs. I talk about it in the book. There's a section on the magnetic mind and money, and I actually got into EFT because of my beliefs around money. And that for me was a huge thing because I was so I was feeling very confident, manifesting many things, but I was having a lot of blocks with money. And I went really deep into it, and I uncovered that the reason that I was having all these blocks is because for me, money and creating wealth and being an abundant person actually had a lot of pain attached to it, because I had all these memories from when I was very, very young with my parents. There was a will that happened in my family, and my mother got more money than her siblings. And because of that, there was a little bit of resentment. And it was kind of trickled down to me because, oh, your mum got this money and I didn't get this. It was all this stuff. I was very young. I don't remember it very well. But all I remember is that money equaled pain. Money equaled problems. And it was only actually at the beginning when I was writing this book that I started getting really deep into those beliefs. And I was like, okay, I need to go deeper into them. I can't just meditate on them. I started using EFT and things just got so much better, and I let go of so many limiting beliefs, and it was just awesome. A really, really incredible tool.
And money is just like a hammer as well, right? You can do bad things and good things with money.
Exactly. And it's just one of these things that it's our energy and our attitude towards it. If you associate something, like our subconscious mind will always turn away from things that are painful or harmful. It will always try and protect us. So even if you consciously desire to create more wealth or to create more money in your life, but you have a subconscious program that money equals pain or money equals love being taken away, then what's it going to do? Your subconscious mind's going to protect you. And it is just going to ignore the conscious desire to generate more wealth or to grow your business. And instead, it's just going to run a subconscious program of like, no, we're not doing this, because if you get that, then you'll get in trouble. You won't have love. And it's very, so interesting how our subconscious works.
Or subconsciously you want to stay loyal to your parents or to the family system. And loyalty means well, quote, for your unconscious mind, loyalty means I'm not allowed to earn more than my parents.
Yes, that's a great one. I see that with my students a lot.
Yeah.
So interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And sometimes when you'll sit with someone, you'll find that they just have these blind spots where they just can't see it. You know, and it's something so deep because the subconscious mind, so much of it is created from the ages of 0 to 7. And that's when we thought like Santa, block your ears if you've got kids in the car. But that's when we thought, Santa Claus was a real thing, flying around on a sleigh. And so we had all these kind of kind of fantasy beliefs that we had that didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then we store all these
Totally,
things.
Yeah, but my mom is not here anymore, at least not in the physical form. And like last week in a session, I discovered that although she's not here anymore, subconsciously I still felt or feel, I'm afraid so, but I still felt loyal to making her happy before I am allowed to be happy. That's so crazy how that works.
Yeah, it's like the strongest bond we have from when we're little. Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
that's a big thing to figure out.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
Yeah. Did you, in your own process of healing and finding answers, did you discover these kinds of things towards your parents and your
Yeah, 100%. I've gone through a really interesting relationship with my parents. I definitely, when I first started my healing journey, I probably wasn't the most emotionally mature version of myself. And I really kind of ignored them for a few years and created a lot of distance from them, which I think caused them like a lot of pain. But I needed to do that to figure out like who I was and what my beliefs were. I think a lot of the things that I had in my mind, I didn't realize were from other people. They were echoes of other things that people had said to me that were not actually my voice and were not my beliefs, but I just like carried them on. And I think sometimes we have to learn to spend time by ourselves in our own world to figure out like, what is it that I actually believe?
Yeah.
What is true for me in my life? And also what is it that I want to do in my life? Because I think it's a very interesting time, especially if you have parents that are from that kind of, do you use the word boomer here in the Netherlands?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the generation thing.
The boomer generation.
Yeah.
I feel like we are in such a different day and age to them. It's like night and day. It must be really hard for them as well because it's a different world. Can you imagine being in a world with no iPhones and no AI? It sounds pretty relaxing, actually. I love the 90s.
What, a world without TikTok? Oh my God.
Everyone's brain, their attention span would be tenfold.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely found like a lot of things in my consciousness. And I think also just a lot of my programming around what was possible and my how I limited myself.
Yeah.
That was a big thing for me.
Yeah. So, and you told us that when you have like limiting thoughts or beliefs, you use EFT. Do you also have like a thing when you have a stress in your system or when you are triggered?
Yeah, like I think when I'm stressed, the first thing I will do is put away my phone and go for a walk. And I know that sounds so basic, but just going for a walk and getting like mental space away from things with no input for me is like a vital practice. I'm a really big believer that people will solve their own problems if they actually turn down the noise on the world and instead turn up the volume on their intuition and their soul. Because you already have the answers within. You know that, but like we all have the answers, the awareness, like the wisdom. It's inside of us. It's just that the volume of the outer world is just so loud that we're not actually even allowing ourselves to hear our own signal.
Yeah.
So that sounds really basic, but that's for me. Like the minute I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed, it's like I just like put the iPhone away, put everything away, put on my noise cancelling headphones, usually with just like nothing on them, and just walk and just get outside, find some blue sky. If there's no blue sky, that's okay. Just like do a color walk, what colors can I see? And just go back to your 5 senses.
Yeah.
I do a lot of like mindful walking. So literally walking and what can I taste? What can I touch? What can I see? What can I smell? Your senses are always here in the present moment. And I think people forget that if you just go back to your senses, like I'm holding a coffee cup right now and it's full of beautiful warm tea and that's bringing me to the present moment because that's only exists in the now. And I think that's a really powerful practice for people that doesn't cost anything and will bring you a world of joy. And also the funny thing about going on a walk or just like being away from the noise of the world is you'll find your big ideas, the things that like make you excited about life and turn you on. They don't come to you when you're watching TikTok or you're in the scroll hole on your, second hour of Instagram reels with the same bloody song playing. Like that's going to come to you in the little moments.
Totally. Yeah. This morning I was a guest in a Dutch radio show, and I shared with her that I almost wrote, I think, half of my theater shows in the sauna. Like after the gym, I go in the sauna. Not with like a piece of paper, of course, but then just the creation, the creativity and the inspiration starts.
People think that I think so many people think that they're not inspired or they don't have ideas. I'm like, be by yourself more. Ignore everyone else. Just turn up the volume on your own life and turn down the volume on like the noise of the world. Yeah. Yeah. We need more practices of silence.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think I have a personal and I think also interesting question about this. And I love it that you also write about your nervous system in the book, because that's a topic that needs to be, seen, because it's such an important topic. Because you said turn down the noise in your outer world and turn up the volume of the inner noise or the inner voice. I mean, my experience is that when my nervous system is like too much in the red or the dark orange, then it makes no sense listening to the inner voice, because it's just surviving, and it's too noisy. And I know that on a deeper level, it's trauma and it's childhood stuff which creates that. In your process of calming down your nervous system, what are steps that you took in that process?
It's a really good question. Many things over the years, depending on where I was at. I think that it's been like an ever-changing process of like what works for where I'm at. I think these days with me, with my nervous system, it's a lot of breath work. Like whenever I'm feeling, that's like my go-to thing, just to really connect back with my breath and just do those sorts of practices. That really helps me. It's funny. I also just think in general with my nervous system, it's about listening to my body and asking myself, like, what do I need in that moment, not what my routine is. Because I think sometimes we get into this routine and you'll be like, oh, I'm going to go to HIIT training, or I've got to do this sort of thing, or your friend will start something and then you'll join them for that thing. But that might not be the right thing for you. What's trending online or what's working in January because everyone's doing this certain kind of exercise, that might not be what you actually need. So it's about like literally like listening to yourself and your body. I mean, like, how can I fill up my own cup and what feels good for me? And getting really experimental with doing a practice or going to a class and literally afterwards sitting there and saying, did this make me feel calmer, better? Because I think a lot of the time people do things that like, maybe it made you feel more accomplished, or maybe it made you feel like, that was really hard and I really struggled through that. But it might have just completely sent your body into fight or flight. And then you might just completely crash afterwards. So I think it's just really about like getting really clear on what works for you and just stop listening to what works for everyone else. Because you're one of one.
Totally.
We're all just one of one. And I think different things will work for you in different stages. Like, for example, I use the breathwork example for a lot of the time. I find if I'm, for example, today, if I were to go home and meditate after this, I would be much better doing something like breath work than going and doing a meditation. This episode is really calm. So, but some episodes I do with people, I'll get back and I'll be like, oh God, I need to do breath work. I probably could meditate after this. I'd be super chill because it's a really lovely conversation. But sometimes if we go do something at work or we go do something that's very engaging, we've had to raise up our heart rate and we've had to really turn it on, sitting in just a meditation practice after that, we can just be too up in our bodies and too wired.
And then meditation works for you.
So then it's just like doing those practices that can really help you like calm down and let out that stress through your body.
I really like it that you say feel in your body what you or your body needs right now. Because so oftentimes I meditated because I thought that was the most brave thing to do. And then Jan Bommeré, he's in Holland kind of famous in the world of healing trauma, was sitting on your chair, and he told me that when you're in the freeze state, the dorsale staat, the dorsal state, I guess in English, you should do anything but meditate because you're in a freeze state and you'll meditate yourself deeper in a freeze state. You should just be active, talk to people, do something.
Also dance.
Yeah.
Do you dance?
Well, I don't, but I drum. That's my dance.
Oh, you drum?
Yeah, I play the drums. Yeah,
that's like a big one for me.
Yeah.
I think shaking, dancing. I always tell like my students, find a song that you can really let loose to. Like a song.
What is your let everything loose song?
It's a corny one, but on my retreats, my big one is Taylor Swift, Shake It Off, because everybody knows that. And I feel like it kind of started a revolution in like a lot of women because a lot of women are not shaking off the opinions of other people. I also like to play kind of like 90s, like rock, kind of like so we talk about the inner child, right? So the inner child has a soundtrack. How about your inner teenager? Your inner teenager has a soundtrack. So what were the songs that you would like let loose to as a kid? I used to listen to like a lot of Good Charlotte.
That was the first song that I learned on the drums.
Oh, stop. Yeah. So I used to go, one of my first concerts was like a Good Charlotte concert. And sometimes when I'm on my meditation retreats, I'll put on a Good Charlotte song and everyone looks at me like, did this meditation teacher just put on like a Good Charlotte song? But I'm like, get your inner teenager raging.
Yeah.
Go find the songs that you remember like letting loose to and being angsty, because those songs were the ones that regulated you when you were young. Yeah. So find a song that just allows you to rip and let loose and scream, and don't be afraid to move your body. Yeah. Because a lot of the time it's because we're not moving our bodies. Can I be honest with you, I've actually felt that being here in winter. It's a very interesting thing. I'm Australian, obviously. Being in winter, I'm noticing how much tighter my body is, because when I'm moving outside, I'm a little bit cold.
Are you saying something about our weather?
No.
Yeah? Is there anything wrong with our weather?
There's nothing wrong with your weather. But I think that I've been dancing more here because I notice when I get home, you've got to like let it out, because it can feel very like stiff and cold and just moving from one spot to another. Yeah. Whereas in summer, we're like running and we're free and our bodies are open. So I think even more so, there's different practices for different seasons and different practices for different moods and where you're at.
Yeah. This weekend I bought like thermo underwear so I can run with this.
Can I tell you, I need thermo underwear. That's like, I feel like that's going to be my thing that I need to buy after this interview.
When I woke up this morning, I did not expect that we would talk about Good Charlotte and thermo underwear during this interview. Awesome. but really, it makes me happy just thinking about what were the soundtracks of my teenage years.
Yeah, it's a great, like, honestly, all your listeners should write it down and maybe tag you in a story and tag me and put it on the Instagram, and we can just start seeing what people have. I love making playlists for students. I'm like, tell me, what were your songs? Yeah. And sometimes when you do that, you'll remember like a banger. Yeah. I do that a lot in retreats. I'm like, I'll find like a ballad and then all the girls will be like letting loose to it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't remember this song. Songs have such a powerful way to transport our energy. Yeah. There's this song that I played at my event. It's called Surrender, and the artist is St. Finnegan. He's an amazing independent artist. And when I was writing the book, I listened to this one song of his, Surrender, a lot, because for me, a big part of manifestation is surrendering. But I always used to struggle with the surrendering part. I was like, cool, surrender, but like, how do you do that? And for me, dancing, music, it's a huge thing that really helps me. And I play that song and it just allows me to have like a deep exhale and to have like a moment of presence and ritual. Because I think at the end of the day, we all just miss some kind of ritual or some kind of meaning to life. Because I think a lot of the time we do so many things that need more ritual and need more ceremony, need more meaning. Yeah. You know, I think we have our 21st birthday and everyone just gets drunk these days. But that used to be like the you're becoming an adult. Like that's a huge thing. Yeah. You've got to pay taxes now. but you know what I mean? It's like these...
and now we just totally get wasted. And that's like the inauguration of being an adult.
Yeah, I think the more we can get back to ritual or ceremony and little things, moments of connection. Yeah. Because the little things are the big things at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. And listen therapeutically to Taylor Swift is also your piece of advice.
Shake it off and Good Charlotte. These are two really good.
Well, people who know me know that I'm like proud to be a Swiftie, so
okay, there we go.
It's nice that you brought it up. And back to the breathing, to the breathwork stuff. A lot of my listeners know what breathwork is, and some of them don't know what it is. So can you maybe elaborate on what kind of breathwork do you do?
Ooh, you know what? I don't know the exact name of what Shiva Ross's sort of breath work is. It's more of like a... So like a I wish I knew the actual
just
term.
talk me through it.
Yeah, so with her breath work that I do a lot on Spotify, it's literally like a...
Wow, yeah.
And you'll do many rounds of that, and then you'll break for about 10 seconds and do some breath holds, and then you'll come back to it. It's kind of similar to a Wim Hof kind of vibe, but a little bit more feminine. That's actually why I really love her breath work. That's one thing I would say to your female listeners, if you're listening. I think a lot of women have tried breath work, can feel like it's very masculine.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of incredible male like breathwork teachers that I love. But I think sometimes the female nervous system and like the way that we take things in, it can be, we like things a little softer. And that's why I think it's really important for all of these modalities to find a teacher that you like.
I think also the beneficial effects of doing like cold showering and a cold bath and stuff is more proven on male than on female.
Yeah. And there's so many times women aren't studied because of our menstrual cycle and the control groups. It makes it way more difficult to do these studies. And even for a woman, I believe it's if we are like right before our cycle, if we're about to come on our cycle, doing cold plunges at that time, it's not good because it really ups the cortisol. Yeah. And, you know, our hormones, right then, it's not like the best time for us to be doing it.
Yeah.
So I think these things you have to be mindful. And like, this is why I always say, like, you got to listen to your own body.
Yeah.
Another form of breath work that I love is just like alternate nostril breathing. So pranayama style, and you can find lots of videos on YouTube about that. But that's really helpful, I think, before meditation, or if I feel like I have a very racing mind, just to connect back with my breath. Yeah. I think for a lot of people, it can be a bit difficult to go from living your life and doing everything that you're doing to then sitting in meditation pose. Yeah. Because the body is like, I'm not prepared for this. So, you know, dancing to shake it off, or having a little screaming fit to Good Charlotte, or doing some pranayama, these things can really help us become more centered in the body. Yeah. That's why like yoga, like asana was done traditionally before meditation. And that was done to prepare the body to sit in meditation. Yeah. And that's why I think so many people do struggle, because we just go from sitting, working, scrolling, Tindering, to then sitting in meditation. It's like, why do I keep thinking about that guy? Or why do I keep thinking about my mom? It's like, well, did you have an interval between those two things? Yeah. Did you give your mind a second to kind of like find some kind of calm? Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me of like these habits. Yeah, really a great reminder to how you say that? Add them or adapt them in my daily routine.
Just add them in. Yeah. I think dancing for me is like, I often dance before I meditate, especially if I feel I haven't moved enough that day. So super important.
So before, so don't go from what's it called? Tinder to meditate. No, from Tinder via dancing, Taylor Swift, Good Charlotte, you know the bangers, to your meditation word practice. Yeah, awesome. Okay, and then, well, speaking about meditation, back to your life story. You just shared it with us. It's also on your website, and it's also, I don't mean also, I mean almost. It almost sounds too good to be true. You say meditation saved my life. Learning meditation freed me from years of dark depression, anxiety, PTSD, and suicidal thoughts linked to trauma in my early life. So once again, it almost sounds too good to be true, but it is true. Yeah. What kind of form of meditation did you do?
Like a mantra-based meditation technique. Okay. So it's kind of originated from something like Vedic meditation. And it's just like a mantra-based method where I have a sound that I'll play in my mind over and over and over again and keep my awareness on that sound. And through keeping my awareness on that sound and continually going back to that sound, it gently starts
and
to...
it's a sound like you have headphones on, or a sound
I was given a sound like about...
your personal.
Yeah, personal sound.
Yeah.
So you'll get given a mantra. You can use like a traditional mantra, or you can just use a word. It can work many different ways depending on like where you're at and what kind of lineage or path you want to go down. The way I teach meditation is very much, it's for anyone. Anyone can try it. I think a lot of people get nervous of meditation because they think they don't want to maybe go down a traditional route because maybe they're of another religion or another spiritual practice. So I always teach meditation very much like a mind trick. And then once you learn something like meditation, no doubt will probably take you on a spiritual path, but it doesn't have to start there.
Yeah.
I always say meditation is like a door. So it's just like a door that opens for you, and where you choose to go from that door is your choice. But yeah, I practice a mantra-based meditation technique, and I do guided meditations and visualizations and stuff these days. But mantra for me has been so powerful because I think that when we sit to meditate a lot of the time and we use something like a guided meditation every day, we're just adding to the noise. Whereas a mantra-based meditation technique, it's actually training our awareness. So it's allowing ourselves to just continually go back to one focal point. And by doing that, you'll start to lower the volume in the mind. And I always say to people, when it comes to meditation, the expectation is not to have no thoughts, because it's kind of a crazy expectation to sit down and give yourself a sound, or, you know, do some breathing or listen to a meditation track and say, sit and have no thoughts. It's like, well, I'm 34. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
36.
36. Okay. You've been thinking for 36 years. I've been thinking for 34 years. It's a really insane expectation to sit down and go, now brain, sit, mind, sit, have no thoughts. The mind's like, this is the function. This is what I do. It's like sitting down and saying, lungs, stop breathing. The lungs are like, this is what I do. I breathe. So it's not about having no thoughts, but it's about learning how to control our awareness. And our awareness is simply, the way I describe it in the book is like, we have what I call the mind house. So we have this house inside our mind, and this mind house has many different rooms. So there's a room for happiness, there's a room for our inner child memories, there's a room for work, there's a room for pleasure, there's a room for music and good Charlotte, there's a room for memories. There's all these different rooms that we can go into, you know, sex, joy, all these things. And depending on where we allow our awareness to go, then the awareness is moving to that room in the mind. Most people spend their whole entire life just allowing their awareness to just go through this house, like running up the stairs, down here, there. And they're not realizing that you can move your awareness.
Yeah.
Like right now, if I told you to think about the last wedding that you went to.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm there.
Yep. Can you remember what you're wearing?
Yeah.
Yep. Can you remember who you were with when you went to the wedding?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's go to the last argument that you had.
Yep.
Yep. Can you remember who you were arguing with?
Totally.
Yeah. Do you remember how it felt?
Totally.
Yeah. So this is the thing. You just moved your awareness.
Yeah.
But most people don't move their awareness. They just allow their awareness to just go everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
Just ping pong like a crazy. And meditation allows you to focus when you do mantra meditation. Focus your awareness on one thing. And when you start learning that muscle, just like if you were going to the gym and you were lifting up a barbell and building it, you start to be able to control your awareness and move it. So you can have a thought, but you can move your awareness away from that thought. That brings you power, because where your attention goes is where your energy flows.
Yeah.
And it's so important to start to get that awareness back and that power back.
And talking about magnetic, sometimes those stressful thoughts or the stressful topics in your life, of which your reptile brain thinks this needs to be fixed before I can relax again, those thoughts or those topics are very magnetic. So you're like, in your meditation, you change your awareness to the wedding or to fun or to sex or whatever, and then it pulls you back to the topic where you're stressed about.
Yeah.
how of course this is like a big question and nobody's perfect, but how to deal with that?
Great question. For me, when I start noticing my consciousness and my awareness continually going back somewhere, I see it as there's work to be done there. There's something that I think that our mind and our awareness is constantly trying to communicate to us. Our consciousness is allowing us to know, like, hey, there's this room in the house that you haven't allowed yourself to like go in and sort through the shit. And like, I want this room clean, and I'm going to keep taking you to this room and keep making you aware of this room until you go in there and you actually do a spring clean. And for me, when I first started meditating, this was really hard, what you mentioned, because it was very difficult. I would have really horrible memories and really horrible things come up. And that's when I started to realize, okay, well, there needs to be deeper work on these. I need to do work on my limiting beliefs. I need to go in and do some conscious reprogramming. I need to go get a therapist about this. These are not things to ignore.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a beautiful thing to give yourself so much space and so much perspective, because you're literally allowing yourself to go into the house to see that there are rooms to clear out.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, if you don't go out and clear those rooms, I think we all know a few people in our lives that don't do that and then end up kind of having like a complete meltdown, and the room ends up just spilling into everything else.
Yeah.
So I think it's, for me, when that happens, it's not fun. It's not easy. I don't enjoy going to places that I don't want to think about and having my awareness constantly go back there. But these days, I just see it as like, okay, there's work to be done here.
Yeah.
This is something that I can't ignore. And I would say to anyone, if you have a reoccurring thought, if you have a limiting belief, if you have something that constantly keeps coming up in your consciousness, it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
It's there to show you that there's, on the other side of that trigger, of that pain, there's so much freedom for you.
Yeah.
And I think the more you can think about the freedom on the other end, the more motivating it can be to go through like that dark tunnel. And it might be a dark tunnel, and get yourself support, call up the right people, go talk to people about it, you know, reach out for help.
Yeah.
But it's, there's freedom on the other end of that.
Totally.
Because once you clear that room, it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
And it might come up, but you'll feel different about it.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing. I love when I can notice I go back to something. I'll have an interesting story for you, actually. Right before I brought out this book, there was someone that I hadn't contacted in many years. And I went through like a really difficult situation with this person, something very personal. And it was the kind of person that I thought, you know what, I'm never going to speak to this person again. I want nothing to do with them. And I want a lot of distance from them. I ended up accidentally liking a picture of theirs on Instagram. And because, you know, it's the Instagram algorithm does its weird things, and I don't follow them, but they just came up in my suggested.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I realized actually I can go and talk to this person and have a conversation. I can empty this house because I have enough space to be able to do that. And this was the universe, the divine, God, whatever you want to call it, showing me, hey, there's this room here that you've been stuffing down.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation, and I can't wait to see them soon. I'm going to see them at some time this year.
Yeah.
And I think that our mind is always showing us where we're not free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the more we can lean into that and start to work through that, the more powerful, you know, we're going to feel as people, as human beings. And also just the more you're going to enjoy life.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, we can talk about all this serious stuff, but like, I just want to enjoy life. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Like, we get one shot at being you. I get one shot at being me. I'm not going to be like Rochelle Fox ever again. You know, it's kind of strange. We get in these like meat puppets, and it's like
meat puppets.
Yeah, it's a meat puppet. You know, you have a soul, I have a soul, and then I'm in this like this beautiful but interesting, strange meat puppet, and I don't get to do me again. So I want to create as much freedom and excitement and
I like that.
love and enjoyment as possible. And I think spirituality should be fun, and it should be an exploration of what's possible for us. And at the end of the day, I think we all just want to get back to love and joy and have fun.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then spirituality and life and acknowledging your darkness has a meaning. It's not like it's my number one passion or hobby to grind in my darkness or look at my, but it's like essential.
Yeah.
Because if you want like a free, lovely, fulfilling, joyful, playful, relaxed life, then it's inevitable that you need to see, acknowledge, and work through your darkness.
Yeah.
And one of my coaches, he's also a shaman in English.
A shaman, yes.
Shaman. And he's really convinced that if you don't acknowledge or look at your darkness, or if you try to put it away, then it's, as you said, like the room will take over all the other rooms at some point.
Yeah.
It gets. Now I don't know the English word. If you could say, well, his vision is if you don't acknowledge your darkness, it will show up in like a mean way.
Yeah.
Better just look at it and
100%.
work through it. Then
I think that it's so funny. Things that seem to, I always believe that the triggers that we have, the things that we're hiding from, running from, trying to avoid, trying to, just kind of drown out with sex, drugs, alcohol, all the different things, Tinder,
exactly, TikTok.
Those things, I think at the end of the day, they're actually all there to activate us into like our healing, into our lightness, they're there to activate us into our full expression. And I think that when you're triggered by something, the way that I look at it, I'm like, well, that's a beautiful thing. When I get triggered by something these days, I'm more like, amazing. I found another way that I'm not free. Like, let's move through that.
Yeah.
Let's clean that thing up.
Awesome.
Because it's otherwise, I used to run from these things. I was a professional runner and hider, and I wanted to just suppress everything. And that's for me with the PTSD stuff in my early 20s. That was, my maths, I'm like, this is why I didn't write a maths book. Yeah, it was like over a decade, 15 years of just like suppressing. I just like had been suppressing things my whole entire life.
Yeah.
And I think it's exactly what your shaman says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I have so much more questions about your personal life and path, but we also have this book here, which is called Magnetic. My association is like with manifestation. Is the book Magnetic about how to manifest? Is that the word?
Yeah.
Manifest things in your life, or is it like a different approach than like the manifest theory?
I would say it's my own unique approach. So I think the thing that I really wanted to do with Magnetic is, yes, I wanted to talk about manifestation, but I also wanted to talk about the mind and get people to understand all the different aspects of their mind. So talk about the subconscious mind and how that plays into manifesting, and how important it is to understand that our subconscious is really running the show. And that I believe like the secret to manifesting is really to figure out your subconscious beliefs, because you don't manifest what you want, you manifest like what you truly believe on an inner level. It's who you are. And your subconscious is really like everything that you are. And it's like a record. And I really wanted people to understand things like the reticular activating system. I really wanted to write a book where people wouldn't be scared of their emotions. I think a lot of people get into the manifestation world and they think that they have to be happy and positive and just high vibe all the time. And I talk about in the book that you won't manifest your deepest desires by suppressing your sadness or your anger. You're a human being having a human experience.
Yeah.
You came here to experience the whole entire rainbow of emotions. And I wanted people to have a healthier relationship with their emotions from someone that was a professional for many years at suppressing their emotions. And I think that was really important to me. And obviously I talk about meditation in there because I'm a very big believer that the more we are able to direct and control our awareness, the more powerful we become at manifesting. One of the quotes at the beginning of the book is that you're always aiming at something, even when you're aiming at nothing. You are always magnetic.
That's like page 2. So
can you say that to me in Dutch? I've never heard someone say it in Dutch.
This one?
Yes, please.
Okay, here we go, listeners. Je richt je altijd ergens op, zelfs wanneer je je nergens op richt. Je bent altijd magnetisch.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a very romantic language, Dutch.
No, I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I really actually would love to just... maybe I have Annalise who's on my team who's Dutch. I should get her to just like read me a few pages in Dutch because Is it on Audible? Is it like, is there an audio version of the Dutch book? Yeah, I don't know if we have audio of the Dutch. I know we have of the English, but we have the Dutch in the written language. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, and I like it that you bring this up because I wanted to ask you a question about this as well, because maybe people think, I'm only
manifesting things, or I'm only being magnetic when I'm consciously doing it. No, you're always doing it.
Yep.
And it's pretty worse if you do it unconsciously, because pretty big chance that you are manifesting your fears and your limiting beliefs.
Yeah. So we're always manifesting from our subconscious. So this is like the part of us where all of the programs lie. It's the part of us that has stored every belief and idea and thought in our mind. And the reason I wanted to write at the beginning of the book that you're always aiming at something, even when you're aiming at nothing, is manifestation is like the law of gravity. Yeah. It's always on. I don't really these days tend to spend time like convincing people that manifestation's a real thing. That's not really like, I'm like, okay, if you don't believe it, but you're already attracting things. You're constantly being magnetic, not only to attract things, but also to repel things. This was very big for me in the book because we talk so much about being magnetic in a marketing sense. I think on Instagram, you hear a lot about attracting, becoming magnetic, becoming this powerful, confident, magnetic version of yourself. But a magnet has two poles. It attracts, but it also repels. There are some people I know that are massive magnets that are just repelling people and situations that they desire and they want all the time because they just have so many limiting beliefs and behaviors that aren't actually allowing those things to come in. That's still magnetic. Because a magnet is just as strong in repelling as it is in attracting. And I also think that some of the most, quoting here, like magnetic people of our generation, you said you're a Swiftie. We'll use Taylor Swift as an example. She is the epitome of someone who is like magnetic. She's one of the most magnetic people in the world. However, people absolutely love her and adore her, but there are people that absolutely hate her and despise her as well because she is powerful. She's both attracting and repelling. This to me is the true essence of being magnetic. Yeah. And I think that when we can realize that it's not just about having everyone like us and having everyone be a yes person and attracted to us, I think for me as a person, the more I've been authentically myself, being who I am to my core and just really being in my own energy and allowing myself to be my authentic expression, the more I've attracted people, but oh my gosh, the more have I repelled people. Because I'm not vanilla ice cream. Neither are you. We're not meant for everyone, right? This is life. And I think that the more you can be yourself and not try and people please, the more magnetic you do become because you are being your authentic self. And you have to realize that it's actually okay if you repel people. It's okay if you lose a few friends. It's okay if you drift away from people in your life. Everyone's on a different path, doing the different thing. Doesn't mean anything wrong about them or wrong about you. We're all just humans trying to figure it out.
What is something that your critics say about you?
My critics say about me. I think sometimes people think I'm a little bit... I think people that used to know me back in the day when I was just doing more entertainment stuff, it was like, oh, now she's gone super woo. She's gone super spiritual. It's like, I think for some people, it's a shock to kind of go from this like world that I was in before to now you're talking about all these esoteric, subjects. And I think that triggers some people. I would also say sometimes I'll be criticized because as much as I love spirituality and stuff, I'm a human being. I like dressing up. I like wearing cute outfit. I like wearing my cute stuff. And I think some people have a judgment of that. My answer to that is spirituality doesn't have a costume. I don't know about you, but like it doesn't. You don't become spiritual by going to a costume store and putting on some mala beads and wearing crystals. Like that doesn't make you spiritual.
You don't have a dot on your forehead. No. You don't wear huge dresses. No. You don't smell like sage.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's all. Like that, if that's your spiritual practice, that's a beautiful thing. But I think sometimes people think spirituality has a look. It doesn't. I think spirituality, like, no one can judge your level of connection to God or the divine. I have no idea what your level of connection is. You have no idea what my level of connection is because it's so personal to us. And I think the more that we try and separate and put labels on things and put people in boxes, I think that's a slippery slope.
Yeah. So earlier you mentioned that like triggers are like presents because you can only get triggered if you lost your connection.
Presents. That was so good. Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
You can only be triggered if you, on that point, lost your connection with love or lost your truth that you are free or that you are good enough. Else it won't be a trigger.
Yeah. So well said.
Yeah. And also like people in your environment can be like interesting information. If people in your environment are like, what's something you mentioned earlier, that if that doesn't motivate you, maybe that's a sign that you have like a limiting belief and you attract people who are not quote unquote the right people for you.
Yeah.
Right?
I think we always are attracting from who we are at our core. And it's like things that are coming up in our life are just a reflection of really what's going on in our inner world.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to look at. They always say like you are the sum of the people that you spend your most time with, right? And
it's like one of the Tony Robbins quotes.
It's a big one. And I think that that's a really important thing. And a lot of the time people say to me, but what happens if I don't have inspiring people in my life? What if I'm not around those people? I don't have those people that are accessible to me. My answer is always like some of my favorite people are dead. Like I have best friends that are writers or that like I'll never meet, you know what I mean? Or that are a lot older now and they're not teaching. One of my favorites is Brian Tracy. And he hasn't passed. He's very much alive, but he's a lovely, incredible teacher from America. And I love his books and I love his YouTube videos. I've never met the guy. He's a friend in my head though. I would always say to people, like, listen to a podcast like this. If someone like wants to, go and change and transform their life, then listen to every single one of your episodes, like get into all of the guests, be part of your programs, because that's going to make people be in your world and start to feel like they have a connection to someone that is on a path that they would like to go on. Yeah. Because we shouldn't be limited in this day and age by who we just have around us. Yeah. Yeah. And
how I always like to see it is do your work like on the surface level or a relatively surface level, such as, who are the people who spend your time with this? Also, like starting to meditate or changing your lifestyle is something on the surface level, I think. And also do like the deep shit. As you mentioned, when you meditate and you find out that one of the rooms in your head is like very messy and is always like banging on the door and stuff, maybe go see a therapist, do work on that thing. Maybe it's your childhood, the relationship with your mother, father, something like that. And I always like to see it like that. So do the work on the surface and do the work on a deeper level. Yeah, it's a really good way to put it. Can you relate? Is that also how you see it?
100%. I think that it's so important to have that deeper work, because if you're just doing things on the surface and you're just hanging out with the right people, it's like sometimes we can feel like, oh yeah, it looks like we're doing everything, but we know in our own mind if it's actually really making a difference. Yeah. I think just listening to the thoughts that are going on in your head and how you're processing things will give you a really good indication of how things are panning out for you.
Yeah. And I think there are a lot of critic questions about being magnetic and manifesting things when about like, that's easier for you, looking good, being intelligent, being born in like a Western or rich country. Yeah. So what's your vision on like, the stuff that we are talking about, the stuff that's in your book, for like third world people? I think not third world people, but people who live in third world countries.
So I think it's a great example of the subconscious, right? So I think like our subconscious, the way that we think and the programs that we have, they're really like passed down through generations. So one thing I talk about in the book is being someone that is kind of like a cycle breaker, which is in my essence being someone that is rewriting the subconscious programs. So I really do feel like anyone can make a shift in their life and make a change, but it's about getting the information through books like this or going on YouTube, listening to podcasts and stuff, and starting to understand that we don't have to keep living the same life as the people that we've been surrounded by, that we can actually change the script. I think that it just comes with awareness that that's possible, that we are actually able to make a change. Yeah. You're not stuck with the programming that you had from a really young age. I come from a very privileged person, Western background. I had a lot of privilege throughout my whole entire life, but I had some really heavy trauma that happened to me that created some really, really heavy, dark subconscious programs and some really difficult things. Yeah. Now, if I didn't realize and decide that I wasn't going to be a victim of those things, and I didn't realize that, hey, I could shift things, change things, transform things, then I would still be in that cycle. And, God forbid, if I had children or if I continued on, then I'd be passing those programs down to that next generation. Yeah. So I think the more people can realize that actually you can change and you're not stuck. And I would encourage people that it's such a powerful thing to be someone in your family that decides to break free from those patterns. I think that it's so important to realize that you have such a power in your lineage to be the person that makes a different choice, that starts to do the work. And that can be a really heavy, hard thing for people to have the weight of generations.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful thing because that is then going to impact all of the community that you're around. So yeah, it's a really beautiful question. It's something I've been thinking about a lot ever since I started like really diving into the subconscious mind, because I think when people used to ask me about manifesting and, you know, these sorts of questions about like, you know, oh, the privilege and all that kind of stuff, I didn't really, many years ago, I didn't understand how important the subconscious was. And now I really understand how important the subconscious is in creating our reality. The more I feel it's important to get this kind of work and that information out to people so that they can start to break free and we can start making these healing modalities more mainstream.
Yeah.
Because I think that if we all had access to these things like meditation, EFT, breath work, how to regulate our nervous system, if we all just had this general conversation and awareness around it, then we can start to really heal the generations to come.
Yeah.
And I think it all just starts with like awareness and acknowledgement.
Yeah. So like if we do our work, our kids will be less traumatized as we were.
Yeah. And I think 100%, yeah. And we won't be passing on those patterns, which is so important. And I think that people like you and me in this kind of position that we have, doing content like this, doing as much free, you know, information and media that we can. Like everyone can listen to a podcast these days, which is an incredible thing. I know anyone with an iPhone, but you know what I mean? Or that with an internet connection. And I think that the more we can have these sorts of conversations as mainstream, we used to live in a world of mystery schools, right? Where all of these topics on manifestation, the mystics, it was all in a mystery school. It was all hidden from everyone else. It was all esoteric, locked away. And now we're bringing this information to light and showing people that it's possible. So yeah, it's a beautiful question and something that I think that as things progress will be, you know, changing. But so much of it all comes down to the subconscious.
So your vision is you can change your script, whatever your script is, or despite the situation you're in.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Changing your script means something else for someone who's deeply traumatized.
Yeah.
And it also means something else for someone who lives in a third world country and is happy if he or she has water and... right? I think that's your vision. So you can change your script, but that means something personal for everybody.
Yeah, it's different for everyone. I think I always say the best thing that I ever manifested in my life was my own happiness. Still is. It's the best thing. I used to be deeply unhappy as a person, and now I'm happy. And I don't think I ever really thought that I would be happy when I was like in the depths of my trauma. I was in a really dark place. I didn't think that was possible for me. Now that I have that sensation of pure happiness and joy, it's like the biggest gift. And I think that I talk a lot in Magnetic about, you know, going deep on your desires and how important it is to find out what it is that you desire and find what you want to create in your life. I, as a person and such a proponent when it comes to manifestation, I think these days we focus so much on material things. Manifestation is also just like lifestyle, how you feel on a day-to-day basis. It's about manifesting that feeling within you and living in that feeling and that presence. And I would encourage more people to realize that like the car, the house, all these things are great. And I encourage everyone to go create their life and live the life of their dreams. But like it's really how you feel on a day-to-day basis and coming back to like getting to a place where you can feel joy in yourself. Yeah. It's so important.
And what was my next question? Yeah, let's talk about something more about the mindset, because the book is about 3 pillars. It's about mindset, meditation, and manifestation.
Yes.
And we already talked about this, but I would like to talk about it some more. You're talking about calm the inner chaos in your head.
Yes.
That's something that everybody wants. So what do you write in your book about, calming the inner chaos in your head?
Ooh, there's so many things. One of the things that I teach in there is something called compassionate repatterning, which is a tool that I've kind of coined. And it's basically when you can really think about the thoughts that you're having on a regular basis. And this is an exercise that I would give for everyone at home. Get out a piece of paper and write down all of the negative thoughts that you hear on repeat. All of the things that I'm not good enough, I'll never be smart enough, I'm never going to be as fit and hot and healthy as my personal trainer, and I've just started working out in January and it's not going to work. All the things that are like coming up in your mind, write them all out. And then start to create a compassionate reframe for them. So every single time you hear yourself say this like negative, self-deprecating, disempowering statement, what I recommend you do is rather go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 really quick in your head, or shh really quick, and then have a compassionate reframe. So the example of the gym, right? You just started out, it's January, you're looking at your personal trainer and you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to be like my personal trainer. Like I'm just done. The compassionate reframe is that I've just started this journey and the guy that I just booked to be my trainer has been doing this for the last 5 years. So of course, I'm at the beginning of my journey. I'm going to give myself grace. I think a lot of the time we have there are truth to some of the statements that we have inside our mind, these uncompassionate, like disempowering thoughts. But what we do is we just believe them rather than instead there is some truth to them, but take them on, but then reframe them with compassion, reframe them with some kind of kindness. It's so important to be kinder to yourself. And when you are kinder to yourself, for me, that has lowered the chaos inside my mind. I think so many people don't have kindness for themselves. You'll be kind to the lady at the shop or your partner or your mom, but you're like the biggest bitch to yourself, right? It's like you're not your own best friend.
Yeah.
You're your own worst enemy.
I like the word compassionate. Be compassionate towards your own thoughts and to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just an element of kindness and love and care. Like how would you imagine it was your kid. Would you have the same reaction? Would you talk to them the same way? No, you would be encouraging and compassionate. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't do things from a place of criticism. Like if you just sat here and told me it was like a really shit interview and you're hating this and all that, I'd just be like, oh gosh, okay. Like I'd just start to shut down. And I think that's also my programming from back in the day. I used to be criticized a lot, so I can kind of go into myself, but I've learned the kinder and calmer I can be to myself.
Nice.
Yeah.
And this is going to get maybe a little bit philosophical. That word, philosophical. You mentioned that the greatest thing you manifested is your own happiness. Is that possible for everybody? Because I think it's really brave for you to share that you had PTSD and suicidal thoughts and meditation, among other things, helped you eventually become happy. Maybe another person who's also suicidal or has PTSD starts meditating and he or she, and it does not work for him or her, So is it possible for everybody to manifest your happiness?
Great question. First thing I would say is if meditation or the tool that someone has, talked about or you've heard about in a podcast isn't working for you, even though you've been showing up for it, try a different tool. Everyone's different. So although I'm such a proponent for meditation and I think it's such a powerful tool that I recommend everyone try, I acknowledge that it might not be the penny drop moment for everyone. And I think in my own career, I'm learning at the moment to not have a hierarchy of tools. I think that that's something I actually used to do. And I wish I didn't actually. If I think back to some of the things I've said in the past, I'm like, meditation is the one way, it's the thing. And I don't want to be that person anymore. I think it's so important to recognize that we're all different and our minds work different and we're all have different programming. So different things work for different people. I think that it is possible to find a sense of like happiness and joy for every human being. I think that that's our innate nature. I don't know the path for every single person. I won't sit here on this podcast and lie and say I know the path to making every single person happy, but I don't. But I think that at the end of the day, like we came into this world as like pure love and joy and happiness. And I think that we can get back to that. I do think it's about removing the layers that have stopped us from being like our purest self. I would also say that happiness is a fleeting feeling. Joy, presence, connection, I think love, they're like the ones that stay. I manifested my happiness and I feel happiness very regularly. But I think the thing that I feel probably on a more solid basis is a sense of presence, a sense of connection to myself and to something greater sometimes.
Yeah. Or the Dutch word is tevredenheid. I think it's satisfaction. And that's not the correct word, I guess, but that you are maybe that you have inner peace, no matter what. Because and I ask these questions because last week during my radio show, some viewers or listeners sent in these questions. Like, easy for you to say, but I'm broke. My son is in the hospital. I don't know, so.
And there are moments of unhappiness that we all experience, Like, gosh, have you had chapters where you've just been like unhappy for months? That just
totally. Yeah.
And I think we all go through that. It's a human experience. I think that the thing I would encourage people though is the more tools you have in your tool belt, maybe the better you're going to be able to get back to a place of peace or just regulation or neutrality. That's why I'm just such a proponent for starting to learn these things. Because I think the more tools we have, the better we become at just being able to deal with life. Because life is not always easy.
I think one person, he sent it in. Is that great grammar? Send it in. Yeah.
Your English is so good, by the way.
Send it in. Oh, thank you.
No, it is.
I really feel handicapped. In my head, I'm like, language is so maybe a talent or a freedom for me as a podcaster, as an interviewer. And I feel like handicapped at not being able to create the perfect.
No, you're doing like honestly, it's amazing.
Okay, but thank you.
Imagine me getting on here speaking Dutch. I wouldn't know where to start.
Do you know a Dutch word?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I did know one recently. I know that one from I remembered one. What was that again? It was something. I think it was a swear word though. I can't remember it right now. I'm going to remember it off air.
Okay. And you have had our wall food.
Yes, the wall food, the croquettes.
Yeah, as in the Febo,
I'm
dames.
obsessed.
Yeah.
I love it. Wall food's like amazing. That was the first thing I got here. I literally got the train to Amsterdam and then there was this wall food. Never seen this before. Never had a croquette before. I rate it. It's delicious.
Yeah?
I love it. It's for introverts. You don't have to speak to anyone. You just scan your phone.
You like the process.
I'm not an introvert myself, but I was just so ready just to have a meal, not have any interaction, just sitting there. It was great. I love it. Is there like what's your favorite like kind of croquette that you like?
Well, I haven't had that in like at least a year, but I like the bami schijf.
Okay.
Chris behind the buttons here is losing it. Chris, a bami schijf in English. You know bami, the Chinese food, bami?
Yeah. Oh.
Is it called bami in English?
But mate.
It's like noodles in like croquis.
Yeah. Yum.
Yeah.
In the croquette thing.
Yeah.
Yum.
Yeah.
So good. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do
you should try the bami schijf.
Yeah, I'm gonna go try it. I'm all about eating all of the wall food while I'm here.
Wall food. It sounds great. Wall food.
I wrote that in my.
You have Walmart in US. We have wall food.
But it is. It's literally in like a wall, and you pull the thing out. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
That would go off in like Australia. Everyone in Australia when they're like a little bit, because I feel like it's a bit. I've been drinking and then I'm going to go get wall food. I feel like this is like a really good hangover food or like a 3 a.m. getting out of the nightclub kind of food. Yeah. Back in my DJing days, this would have been what I would have done. Yeah. But I feel like in Australia, I was thinking about, I'm like, this could be a really good franchise. Like stop the doner kebabs. Like just get some wall foods, Dutch croquettes.
I think it would be a great niche with your magnetic brand. Yeah,
I know.
I'm like a spiritual teacher and I have wall food.
Hey, the one thing I always say is I'm a spiritual teacher, but I'm here having a human experience.
Yeah, totally.
And I think
it will be fun.
I think the one thing about my teachings and what I do is I want to keep it fun and just. Yeah. I think I don't like taking things too seriously.
Oh, me neither, yeah.
I think it's so important that we bring joy and presence and fun and just like childishness to these sorts of things, because we can get so serious and so bogged down. And I even know on my own journey when I took things way too seriously and I try to be perfect at everything, have the perfect meditation schedule, have the perfect healing schedule, have the perfect diet.
Yeah.
I forgot just to be me, just to be a human, to be someone that's just trying to figure it out.
Totally. And looking at it more psychologically, being a perfectionist is always from pain, from limiting beliefs, from fear. If you go down that road,
I think life is one big experiment, and the more you can show up for the experiment, and the more you can have fun on the journey. For me, a big thing. It's the corniest saying. They say like, find joy on the journey, right? Or like the journey is the destination. But it really is. The more I enjoy the journey and find joy on the journey, the happier I am.
Yeah.
And I feel like the better I'm able to attract things, the more magnetic I become.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're talking about joyfulness now, but I was on my way of asking a really serious,
let's
deep,
go back.
because one of my listeners last week, he sent it in. Oh, that was the sentence. He sent it in a question about, he said, I have like a chronic back disease, something like that. So how can I be happy or something like that? And isn't maybe, not only for him, but maybe for everybody, is it maybe the thing of life not to be happy, but more that you have inner peace with whatever the circumstances are?
I love that you asked this question. So I think for me, one of the big values that I have in my life is inner peace, and just to find peace in the moment. And I think that has been a really beautiful journey for me to realize that that's also finding peace in discomfort. It's also finding peace in pain. I think inner peace we sometimes think about is this like completely blissful, euphoric experience. And I think peace is just meeting yourself where you're at and being able to be present in the moment. And sometimes those moments can be hard and heavy, and they can be really full on. But we can find a sense of peace and surrendering to what's occurring rather than trying to control. I like to say, I wrote about it in the book as well, control the controllables, but surrender the rest. I can't control everything. You can't control everything. I would have liked to a lot of times in my life, but the more I realize that I can't control everything.
We think we can control our partner, right?
Yeah, we can't.
Try.
I've been in a 14-year relationship. Definitely can't control him.
Still not after 14 years?
I still haven't got a control. Where is the controller? Are you going to give it to me? I'm waiting for a guy to go, this is
I will
how
teach you in my online course. And if you decide now, you get 10% off.
Yeah, sounds good. Give me the coupon code. I got a whole bunch of women that will sign up for that one. But yeah, we can control the controllables, but we have to surrender the rest. And look, life sometimes deals us really difficult cards. And I think that I don't know why they happen. And I used to say, everything happens for a reason. I don't know if everything happens for a reason these days. There are things that have happened, and there are things that happen in the world, and I have no understanding of why they're going on, and they are hard and heavy. But I do know that the things that happen, I do think that when we can move through them, there are gifts on the other end of them. And I do know that everything happened, I tend to think it does teach us something. Yeah. And that's the solace that I find in difficult moments. I don't know if everything happens for a reason, but I do think that there are lots of lessons in my life that have turned into blessings. Yeah. Some of those things have taken years to get to a blessing, though. Like, I've had lessons that I'm like 5 years on, I'm like, it's still a lesson. It was still a shit show. I don't feel the blessing. When's the blessing coming? I've got a few of those still where I'm like, I'm waiting for like that moment where I'm like, it all. And sometimes it doesn't happen. But I do think that the human experience is a weird and wonderful thing. And it's like you're just on this journey of learning and discovering and having experiences. It's just a constant experiential bloody roller coaster ride. It's like a huge theme park that we're on. And some of the rides are euphoric and amazing and incredible. And some of them are absolutely terrifying and we want to get off and we can't. Some of them make us sick. It's just this, it's all the things all at once.
I like it. When you put it that way, I'm like, looking forward to life when you put it there. It's like it's so much fun to be here. And sometimes it's not fun, but that's part of the fun that it's not fun, maybe. Yeah,
and I think just you got to remember that you only get one shot at you.
Yeah.
It's like
you only get one shot at you.
Always. You only get one shot. So it's like, You can make it heaven or hell. You can look at it any way you want, but you don't get to do it again as you. Maybe we get reincarnated. If we do, I really hope I come back as a dolphin. That's my request. I've told the universe this a million times. I have a very strong request.
But maybe
dolphin.
those stupid human people, like they caught you or something,
Yep.
and then they put you in like a show.
All right, okay. I'm going to be a wild dolphin on the Atlantic, and no one's going to capture me.
Dream specifically.
Thank you very much. There's a manifestation tip for you. Very, very true. Very important to be specific about your manifestations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, finally, when people read this book, what is like your promise after you read this book? What are you
my promise,
capable
I love that.
of? What have you learned?
I think once you read this book, you'll have a deeper understanding of your mind and why you maybe have been attracting certain things in your life, but also maybe why you have been repelling certain things. I think it's going to awaken people up to their inner power and start to realize that their life is not meaningless, but actually meaningful. And it's just about tapping into that power within. It's really going to teach you a lot about your subconscious and give you maybe like a third-party perspective to be able to look at your life and your programming with more love and compassion.
Yeah.
And also to hopefully open people up to the magic of practices like meditation, EFT, breath work, so many different modalities that I mention in there.
Awesome.
That I feel are pathways for people to, go on and explore. And I want to say, like, I'm so excited that the book's, coming out, in the Netherlands, and it's in Dutch. And one thing I was saying to you before we started recording that I think is so important to mention is there's a lot of personal development books that come out, and
I know
it's a massive privilege and I think an honor to be published in the Dutch language and to have it translated. And one thing I think that's really important is that it's so important to read books like this that are for yourself, about your subconscious and about your own personal growth in your native tongue. And I know so many people in the Netherlands speak incredible English, read in English, learn in English, study in English, but to actually read this book in Dutch and to take on the Dutch translation is so important because you're going to get so much more from taking in the information in the actual language that your subconscious was programmed in. So if you were speaking Dutch, if your parents are speaking Dutch to you from ages 0 to 7, read the book in Dutch. And I would encourage you to read most personal development in Dutch because you can improve your English by, watching Netflix and doing all the things. But when you're really studying and you're working on yourself, it's so powerful to read in your native tongue. And to do this work in your native tongue is really, really impactful. And it's a beautiful language and beautiful culture. And I loved being here. And it's so crazy to have a book in a language that I can't read, but it's amazing.
And you just trust that it's really your text.
It is. One of the researchers, Annelies on my team from Team Mindspo, she's Dutch, and she was like my researcher in this book, doing all of the science and the back end for me. And it was very funny when we got the Dutch edition. She was like reading through it. She's like, "Yes, it's definitely your words." So it's so funny. I feel like this book has so much of a Dutchie in it because Annelies was my right-hand woman when writing it. So
Dankjewel, Annelies. And Cosmos is a great publisher. It's the same as mine. I know those people. Yeah, they're awesome.
Like such nice people.
Yeah.
And I hear that manifestation is actually very big in the Netherlands. Like it's a really big hot topic.
And we need these kinds of books, but because with all due respect, there's a lot of fuzz, or what's the English word?
Fluff.
Fluff, that's more the word, and I think this is really a 360 book. I love it that you also mentioned the nervous system. You mentioned practical stuff like breath work, like EFT, like meditation techniques, your personal story. I really
appreciate that.
I really am an endorser of this book. And as you mentioned, it makes sense that our subconscious mind is programmed in Dutch.
Yes.
And English for me is linked to movies, to music. So it makes sense that when you read something in Dutch, it gets deeper in my system. When I say I am love, or I say ik ben liefde, it's a total difference how my system reacts to that sentence.
Even, can I just say, like looking at you, your body, like there's like when you say it in Dutch, there's this warmth.
Yeah, I
that
felt
comes
it.
from
Yeah.
it. And that's the power of language. That's the power of like going back to our roots and honoring where we're from and doing things where we actually like emerge from, and realizing that it's so important to be connected to that part of ourselves. Even if everyone's speaking English these days and it's becoming like such a big thing here for people to be, doing everything in English. No, don't forget your Dutch roots. So important.
Yeah, as I told you in our pre-conversation, I used to go to a Tony Robbins event. He did this visualization. I went to Tony Robbins 11 times, so it's like...
I'm excited. You've got me. I'm going to go to the
Some
next
people
one.
get addicted to sex or drugs or TikTok, and I got addicted to his events.
Yeah.
And so I knew the visualization, and then I got a Tony Robbins educated coach, a Tony Robbins trained coach, and he was Dutch, and he did the exact same visualization exercise with me, and it was such a big difference. It was like, oh my God, this is so much deeper experience than the English version.
That's such a beautiful story to share with your listeners, like the power of doing things in Dutch and doing things in your own language. So thank you for sharing that.
So get the book Magnetic.
Yes.
On, do you know the name?
No, you've got to say it here. I don't want to mess it up.
Bol.com.
Bol?
B-O-L, bol.com.
Bol.com.
Yeah.
Way better than Amazon.
Or Bruna. Or is it also in the shops?
I think they are in some shops, yes. Yeah. But it's definitely on bol.com.
Yeah, and you can find more information about you on RochelleFox.com.
Yeah, RochelleFox.com.au. And then on Instagram, I'm just Rochelle_Fox. But honestly, just read the book. I think that's my main thing that I would love people to do. Read the book in Dutch and enjoy it.
And do you want to sign this one so I can give this one away to somebody?
I would love to.
So after the interview, you can sign it and go to thijslindhout.nl/magnetic, and I will give... away. Yeah, I will give away one book to everybody who subscribes there.
Yeah, perfect.
Signed by you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So finally, we are almost 100 minutes into this great conversation. Is there something we still haven't mentioned which you would like to share with me and my listener?
I think one thing I would like to say is there's a part in the book that talks about the reticular activating system, the RAS, which is this system that we all have in our mind. And what this system does is it filters out information. This is why if we're thinking of buying a certain car, what's a car that you like? Give me a car.
Tesla.
A Tesla, right? If you're thinking about buying a Tesla, maybe you have one, but if you were thinking about buying one, and you would start to see Teslas everywhere because you're focusing on it. I think people need to understand that the reticular activating system is such a powerhouse when manifesting. And I say at the beginning of the book, you're always aiming at something, even when you're aiming at nothing. Really get clear on what it is that you want to create in your life and start focusing on that thing and being intentional about remembering that thing on a day-to-day basis. One way you can do this is I teach and talk about in the book is vision board movies. So I make vision board movies all the time, which are basically like a vision board, but in a movie form. So it's a vision board come to life. So it's pictures of what you want to manifest with affirmations, affirming the thing, and with high vibe music. And I watch those.
With Good Charlotte.
Yeah. I don't have Good Charlotte, my vision board maybe, but it would be a good one. But just doing things like this where you can focus on your vision and what it is that you want to create in your life every single day.
Yeah.
The world is full of distractions. The world is always telling you to go in 1,000,001 different places. You have to tell your magnetic mind and your reticular activating system what's important to you. Do not let your world and your whole entire life be controlled by Fortune 500 companies on social media. Be intentional about your life and what it is that you want to create, because you are so much more powerful than you think. And this book talks you through so many tools and techniques to be able to do that.
Awesome.
But just every single day, waking up and deciding what it is that I want to create today, what it is that I want to focus on, and allowing that thing to be at the forefront of your mind. And then your magnetic mind, your reticular activating system, it will work magic. You'll start seeing it.
Awesome.
And through that seeing things, it creates more evidence, creates more trust, and allows you just to be more intentional about aiming towards something.
Sounds like a combination between making a vision board and like the TikTok hype right now, or the TikTok world we live in. Make a great TikTok reel, but out of your vision board. It's called a vision board movie. I like it. Yeah.
There you go.
Well, once again, thank you so much. Fun that you are here in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And I hope to seeing you soon. And I really like it that you have so much playfulness and unseriousness in the great way of saying it.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come on. Like, I know most of your listeners, you normally do interviews in Dutch. So I'm such an honor to be able to do like an interview in English, and you're a really incredible interview, and I enjoyed this so much. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, high five.
High five.